revealed the heartwarming truth about an incredible hidden civilization before humanity. In a dusty corner of a time-worn attic, Sarah stumbled upon the most extraordinary treasure of her life, a centuries-old diary that would pull her from the mundane struggles of her Midwestern town into a world teeming with hope, resilience, and unity. The fragile pages whispered secrets of a hidden civilization that flourished despite adversity, and as she sifted through the delicate inked letters, Sarah felt the weight of history shift within her heart. Sarah, a humble schoolteacher at 34, devoted her days to shaping young minds, fighting against the currents of despair that plagued her community. Each lesson woven with the threads of her own upbringing. She longed to inspire her students' kids from broken homes, threads in a fabric slowly unraveling. But as she read the diary's poignant accounts of a time when neighbors came together, laughter echoed like a sweet melody, and communities filled with hope, fog crept into her heart. The fading American dream loomed larger than life, and doubt seeped in, dulling the vibrancy of her ambitions. The first entry captured her. It spoke of families uniting against hardship, supporting one another through triumphs and failures. Sarah's eyes glistened with tears. Those words ignited a yearning within her to rekindle the bond in her town. As she read, it felt as if the past reached out, intertwining with her present, and she absorbed each lesson meant to galvanize her blood. Perhaps that was the answer to her struggle, a shared purpose. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as excitement blossomed, the stirring was met with pushback. The town, long riddled with societal rivalries, grew uneasy as her dreams clashed with entrenched prejudices. Voices rose, igniting tension, simmering resentment weaving like an unwelcomed thread through the fabric of community gatherings where laughter used to mingle. People questioned her intentions. A hushed conflict threw her once close friendships into jeopardy, as accusations and misunderstandings swirled like storm clouds on the horizon. At the annual town meeting, silence fell, heavy with the weight of anticipation. Heart pounding, Sarah stood at the brink of revelation, a moment that could offer to mend what was broken. As voices of her past echoed through her thoughts, she remembered how those same prejudices danced through her own bloodline. The revelation struck like lightning, leaving her reeling. Her childhood friend turned rival glared across the room, challenging her conviction. In this moment, Sarah understood, to build a bridge, they first needed to confront the gaps of their past. The threat of division loomed like a thunderstorm, but realization struck that redemption lay not in outside influences, but in their shared experiences and the courage to embrace uncomfortable truths. As the meeting wore on, silence fell. Would they see the value in unity? Would they let the golden opportunities of the hidden civilization breathe life back into their worn-down lives? The town stood at the precipice of transformation, breathing in the powerful choice ahead, a flicker of hope amid despair. As the murmurs of the townsfolk filled the air, a weighty silence enveloped Sarah. Her heart raced, each beat echoing the hope of 1,000 dreams. She stepped forward, feeling the eyes of her neighbors piercing through her. Would they listen? Would they trust her? Friends, she began, voice trembling yet resolute. I know these ideas sound daunting. I feel the tension, the fear we all carry. But what if we embraced the lessons of the past? Her gaze flickered towards the old diary, safely tucked under her arm. A vault of wisdom waiting to be shared. A ripple moved among the audience. She noticed a few nods, faint, but promising. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could ignite the spark of curiosity she felt racing in her veins. The people who lived before us, they faced their struggles too. They built connections, learned from each other as stories, and forged a stronger community despite their differences. As she continued, faces turned more receptive. There was the glimmer of recognition in eyes, memories sparking times when children played in the sun, when neighbors shared meals, and discussions flowed freely, nurturing unity instead of division. But the glare from her childhood friend, Jake, didn't waver. He stood with arms crossed, a timeless wall erected against change. And what about our history, Sarah? What about all the grudges, the battles fought, the betrayals still fresh in our minds? His voice was like thunder, but she sensed the pain beneath it, a voice of someone who hadn't yet healed. I honor that history, Jake, Sarah replied, her voice soft but firm. But it doesn't have to define us. We can write a new chapter, together. A moment of silence draped over them, thick as the velvet night, as the crowd weighed her words. It was then that a voice broke through the town's elder, Mrs. Thompson, a woman who had witnessed decades of division and healing. Her frail hand shook as she rose, glassy eyes shining with age-old wisdom. Sarah is right, she said, her voice quivering yet resilient. We may have been torn by our past, but we have the power to choose our future. Years ago, I stood where you are now, clinging to bitterness. It wasn't until I shared my fears and listened to others that I began to heal. In that instant, some in the crowd began to shift. Sarah's heart swelled with anticipation, a testament that change could blossom from vulnerability. They could listen. They could unite against the current pulling them apart. Let us gather, share our stories, she urged, stifling overwhelming emotion. We can learn from each other, just like the civilization I discovered. We can create spaces of safety, places like the ones I read about in the diary. Together, dreams can thrive. Cheers began to ripple through, but the push was still there, the tension barely masked by hopeful voices. The room filled with eyes turned towards her, searching for assurance. Still, Sarah felt a knot tighten in her stomach. What if it was all for naught? What if the history of distrust was too deeply ingrained? The air crackled with energy, and her confidence wavered. Would this be the moment that ruptured her dreams instead of fulfilling them? Just as she felt the weight of despair beginning to envelop her, a small boy from the back of the room spoke up. Can we really make it the way it used to be? Can we play outside again? Laughter erupted, a short, nervous sound that quaked against the backdrop of serious conversation. But within it, Sarah found a tiny ember of hope. Yes, change was possible, but it would take more than words. It would require fierce determination and unwavering dedication from each person in that room. As chairs scraped and excitement buzzed in the air, she knew this was just the beginning. Brandishing the diary as her guide, she was ready to foster collective growth. But as the meeting concluded, Jake approached her, a storm cloud still looming in his eyes. You think this will work? He questioned. I have to believe it, Sarah replied, her voice steady against his doubt. But with you at the table, we could make it even stronger. In that moment, the path ahead flickered like a candle flame, fragile yet alive. But with the tension between them thickening, would they be able to ignite a transformation together? The thought lingered like a question mark in the air, a whisper of both promise and uncertainty, as they stepped into a chapter where everything felt possible yet precarious. With the town hall meeting ending in a swirl of cautious optimism, Sarah stepped outside, the cool air washing over her like a soothing balm. She took a deep breath, trying to dissolve the lingering knots in her stomach. This was her chance. No, their chance to forge a new path. But as she looked around at the familiar streets, she realized that echoes of the past still haunted them. Would they rise above the weight of history, or would it drag them back into darkness? Jake lingered near the doorway, his silhouette framed against the fading sunlight. Sarah could see the conflict written all over his face. I don't know, Sarah, he finally said, his voice a quiet, hesitant murmur. What if this doesn't change anything? What if we just stir up old wounds? We can't let fear dictate who we are or what we can become, she replied, her own resolve tightening. We can't stay stuck in the past. We have the opportunity to heal, to become a community once more. He sighed, the sound heavy with doubt. It'll take more than words. It'll take real efforts. Trust doesn't magically appear just because we want it to. I know, Sarah admitted, a pang of worry flickering in her chest. But it has to start somewhere. What if we organize a community gathering? A potluck, A place where everyone can come, share stories, food, and reconnect? Jake rubbed the back of his neck, a gesture that spoke volumes about his internal struggle. I don't want to see you hurt, you know that? Last time we tried something like this, he trailed off, a shadow crossing his eyes at forgotten memories. Last time, she interrupted gently, we didn't have this diary. We didn't have the lessons from the past to guide us. These people can find strength in their stories if we give them the space. I believe that. He finally met her gaze, and for a split second, she saw a flicker of hope illuminate his features. Okay, I'll help you plan it, but I'm not making any promises. His tone was as guarded as ever, yet it felt like a crack of light breaking through a stormy sky. That's all I need, Jake, she said, her heart lifting a bit. Even just one person believing can tip the scales. Over the next few days, the townspeople buzzed with the idea of the gathering. As the sun dipped lower on the horizon, Sarah found herself preparing the space in her backyard, setting up tables draped in checkered cloth and arranging colorful flower bouquets. It wasn't perfect, but it was warm and inviting, a small oasis of possibility. The day arrived, the air thick with nervous anticipation. People trickled in, hesitant at first. Laughter and chatter faded in and out like waves, crashing against the shore of long-held grudges. But as time passed, Sarah watched groups begin to form, old faces mingling with new. Jake lingered nearby, his cautious demeanor slowly peeling away. Sarah caught him sharing a story with a neighbor, a spark of camaraderie lighting up their expressions. For the first time in a long while, the space felt alive, echoes of joy and laughter filling the air. But then, a piercing scream shattered the moment. All heads turned as a young girl ran into the crowd, her face streaked with tears. My puppy! I can't find him! He is gone. The exhilaration in the air morphed into tension, the joyous atmosphere fracturing as everyone waited for someone to accede. As Sarah got to her feet, her heart raced. Let us search together, she shouted, her voice carrying above the panic. Who's with me? In the next moment, she felt the pull of the community orbiting around her. Neighbors, strangers, and old friends rallied together, ready to leap into action. But could the unity born in anxiety withstand the tumult that lay ahead? The thrill of connection mingled with an underlying tension that lingered, leaving everyone wondering just how deep their bond really ran. Could it survive the trials that were now sure to come? Sarah could feel the adrenaline pumping through her veins as she stepped into the chaos, her voice rising above the crowd. Faces, once skeptical, were now set in determined expressions. Neighbors who had barely exchanged pleasantries just days before were ready to search. They scattered into small groups, calling out the puppy's name, their urgency mixing with the fading light of the evening sun. Bella! Bella! Sarah joined in, weaving through the confusion, hoping her words would bridge the distance that years of silence had created. Her heart was pounding, not just from worry, but from the rush of seeing people come together. If they could unite to find a lost puppy, maybe they could tackle bigger issues too. Jake appeared beside her, his earlier reluctance replaced by a fierce determination. I'll check the park, he said, already moving, but he paused for a moment, searching her eyes. Stay safe. I will, she promised, the weight of that simple exchange filling her with warmth. They weren't just friends anymore. They were allies, ready to face whatever came next. As twilight draped its coolness over the town, Sarah dashed toward the edge of the community playground, calling for Bella. The trees flickered with shadows as other searchers joined her. A couple of kids were laughing nervously, darting between swings. Sarah glanced back at the gathering crowd, her heart swelling at the sight of so many people banding together. Then, she saw a flash of movement out of the corner of her eye. She turned sharply, her breath catching as she spotted a little golden retriever peeking out from behind a bush, its tail wagging furiously. Bella! She shouted, sprinting forward. The puppy bounded toward her, responding to the sound of her voice with sheer joy. Sarah knelt down, arms wide open, and Bella jumped into her embrace, licking her face in a whirlwind of excitement. Relief washed over her as laughter erupted around her. She knew this was more than just a successful search. It was a moment woven into the fabric of community. Everyone was smiling, their earlier worries momentarily banished. Jake emerged from the chaos with the unmistakable look of relief painted across his face. As he neared Sarah, she held up Bella, grinning from ear to ear. "Look what we found." The crowd cheered, a wave of energy pulsing through them, and before long, they were all in a circle, petting the puppy and listening to the girl explain how Bella had wandered off while she was playing. But as the excitement settled, Sarah noticed an older man standing at the edge of the crowd, his expression unreadable. She had seen him at the town hall, a figure among the murmurs and doubts, but somehow lost in the current of conversations. He was watching, and in his gaze was a storm of emotion, surprise, perhaps even regret. She approached him, Bella still cradled in her arms. "Beautiful dog, right?" she offered, attempting to bridge the gap. He nodded slowly. "Yes, precious." His voice was thick with a history she didn't know. "What's your name?" "Eddie," he replied, and after a moment he added softly, I used to have a dog like that. A long time ago." A moment stretched between them, thick with layered stories waiting to be told. "Back in those days, community meant something," he continued, a faraway look in his eyes. "But things have changed." Before she could respond, another voice cut through the young girl who had lost Bella. "Can we have a puppy party next time?" Laughter bubbled between the adults, and Sarah felt a warmth spread through her. But beneath it all, a whisper of uncertainty lingered. Eddie's gaze was still fixated on her, as if he held pieces of the past capable of unraveling the present. What was he thinking? What was the history beneath that gaze? With a heart full of hope and a side of trepidation, Sarah wondered whether this moment would be enough to coax the truth out of the shadows. And as the gathering dissolved back into laughter and chatter, she realized the real search might have just begun. How much more lay buried beneath the surface of their community? How could they unveil these hidden truths together? As the night deepened, laughter and chatter lingered in the air, but Sarah felt a pang in her chest. Eddie's eyes seemed to speak volumes, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the night held deeper meanings, waiting to surface. The crowd began to thin out, families making their way home with Bella resting contentedly in Sarah's arms. Jake found her again, smiling. "Looks like we did good." "Huh? We did," she said, though her voice was a bit distant. "But what about Eddie? I can't help but feel like there's more to his story." Jake followed her gaze toward the older man. Eddie remained standing there, now watching the sky like he was waiting for something. His shoulders slumped slightly, as if the day had pinned him down. "Want me to talk to him?" Jake asked, sensing her unease. "I think it should be me," Sarah replied, her heart pounding at the thought of confronting the uncharted waters of his past. I need to understand." With determined steps, she walked back to Eddie, the sound of her shoes echoing softly against the pavement. The din of the celebration faded behind her, replaced by the chirping crickets and rustling leaves. She felt vulnerable yet resolute, hoping to uncover whatever secrets were hidden beneath his stoic exterior. "Eddie," she said gently, breaking the comfortable silence between them. The evening air felt heavy, charged with possibilities. He turned toward her, his expression shifting from distant contemplation to something softer. "Yes, Sarah? What did you mean about the community? It seems like you have something on your mind." A brief flicker of sadness crossed his face, momentarily eclipsing any initial warmth. "We used to be closer, you know." Before he paused, choosing his words carefully. "People stopped caring about each other." "Why do you think that happened?" she pressed, her heart responding to the pain in his voice. "Life got in the way," he sighed. "Folks were busy with their own troubles. It's easy to lose touch when everyone is caught up in their own world." Sarah nodded, the words sinking in with an unsettling familiarity. They echoed sentiments she had felt surrounding her own life, how busy days made it easy to overlook conversations with neighbors, growth within their community. "Well, today I saw something different," she said, her voice gaining strength. "People came together for Bella. Maybe we can build from that." Eddie looked at her with surprise, then admiration. "You really think so?" "I do," Sarah replied, a spark igniting within her. We just need to keep focusing on these connections, one step at a time. He studied her for a long moment, and for the first time, a smile broke through his hesitant demeanor. You might be onto something, young lady. Before she could respond, a childish laughter rang out across the parking lot, drawing their attention. Sarah saw the little girl from earlier chasing fireflies under the streetlights. The innocence of it hushed her, a reminder of what was truly important. Hopefully it would inspire Eddie to open up more. What kind of dog did you have? Sarah ventured, wanting to dig deeper. Eddie's smile faded slightly, replaced by a flicker of nostalgia. His name was Rex, a big, goofy fellow. Always ran away whenever he saw a squirrel. Did he come back? Most of the time. Eddie laughed softly, but there was a thread of sadness mingled within the chuckle. Sometimes he'd come back with more than he bargained for, like a mess of dirt or a monster hole in the yard. Our whole neighborhood used to celebrate those returns. As he spoke, Sarah realized that the evening wasn't merely about finding Bella. It was a thread pulling them into something much larger than need for connection, the longing for a community woven tightly through shared experiences. But just then, a jolt of energy shot through her. A thought struck like lightning. What if Eddie's past held the key to reigniting that long-lost sense of community? What if we create events like this more often? She suggested, eyes wide with possibility. Not just for lost puppies, but to bring people together. Eddie's eyebrows lifted, the gears in his mind visibly turning. You might just be onto something. Sarah, there was a spark of hope in his eyes, but doubt shadowed it too. Would others step up to help? The night deepened further, and as silence enveloped them, Sarah felt an unyielding fire within her. Change was worth pursuing, even if it meant embracing uncertainty. But would the rest of the community be willing to join the fight for a more connected future? And just as she began to think that maybe, just maybe, their efforts could lead to a revival, a loud crash echoed from the nearby park. The noise broke the stillness, sending her heart racing. Her eyes darted toward the sound, and uncertainty flared within her. What had just happened? What awaited them in the shadows of their community? The crash rang out again, sharper this time, reverberating through the night. Sarah's heart raced as she turned to Eddie. His eyes shifted, worry etching his features. Should we check it out? Definitely, she replied, her voice steady despite the jangle of nerves in her stomach. The little girl had already run toward the park, oblivious to the commotion. They hurried through the empty parking lot and crossed into the dimly lit park. Shadows loomed around the swing set and the old oak tree, where flickers of movement caught their attention. As they approached, the muffled sounds of voices were mixed with soft whimpering. Bella? Sarah called out, but the sound was swallowed by the dark air. She felt a surge of panic. What if something had happened to the puppy? Was the community threatened again? She shoved the thoughts aside, focusing on finding the source of the noise. They rounded the corner of the playground equipment and came upon a small group of kids huddled together. The laughter from earlier had faded, replaced by concerned murmurs. Right in the center of the circle lay the tiny body of a small dog, its breathing shallow and the fur matted with something dark. Is that? Eddie whispered, stepping closer. A dog, Sarah replied, but the sight sent a sharp ache through her chest. It wasn't Bella, but a lost and hurt animal nonetheless. What happened? A boy at the edge of the group looked up, eyes wide and filled with fear. We think he got hit by something. He just dragged himself here. Sarah knelt beside the small creature, her heart in her throat. Its eyes met hers, and she could see the determination flickering within, even through the pain. It's okay, little guy, she murmured, gently stroking its head. We'll help you. Eddie crouched next to her, his brows knitted in concern. We need to get him to a vet. Right away. Sarah nodded, her mind racing. There shouldn't be any vets nearby at this hour, but maybe someone in the community could help. Maybe someone with a car? Eddie's eyes caught hers, and he seemed to understand her unspoken question. The spark of hope they shared earlier flickered back to life. I can get the word out, he said, already pulling out his phone. As he started typing, Sarah glanced at the kids, their faces twisted with worry. "Can any of you help us?" She paused, unsure what to expect. "Do any of you have a neighbor with a truck or know of someone who can drive us?" One of the girls, an older redhead, stepped forward. "My dad has a truck. He'll help." "Yes." "Great. Get him." The girl took off running, her curls bouncing as she dashed toward home. Sarah turned back to the group. "Thank you for caring about him. This little guy needs us." Eddie looked up from his phone, excitement spreading across his face. "There's potential here, Sarah. Look at them. Look how they want to help." Heart pounding, Sarah watched the kids nod, whisper encouragements to each other, and busy themselves with the dog, ensuring he was comfortable until help arrived. This moment was more than just about finding a lost animal. It was a chance to spark something, to show that the community could still care for one another. Just then, the sounds of another approach broke through the tension. Sarah squinted into the darkness, the headlights of a truck slicing through the gloom. "That must be him," she exclaimed, hope bubbling within her as the truck pulled up. The little girl jumped out, waving her arms. "Dad, over here." But as the scene unfolded before her, Sarah's heart sank. A figure emerged from the cab, a familiar face causing her breath to catch. It was someone she hadn't expected to see in a moment like this. Who had just arrived? Would this unexpected arrival bring them closer together, or create more tension in the community she was trying so hard to heal? Sarah's mind raced as she registered the figure stepping out of the truck. It was Tom, her old neighbor from down the street, a man she hadn't seen since the fallout over the community split months ago. Memories of heated discussions and stubborn arguments flooded back. "Tom," she whispered, both relief and anxiety twisting in her stomach. The kids glanced up at him, faces painted with a mix of confusion and curiosity, while Eddie's expression shifted from hope to wariness. "Hey, Sarah." Tom's voice came out deeper, more somber than she remembered. The light from the truck illuminated the worry etched on his brow as he stepped closer to the huddle. It felt surreal to see him here, and yet, with the injured dog in need of help, there was no time for old grudges. "Can you take us to the vet? The dog needs urgent care." Sarah breathed out, her urgency making her sound almost desperate. "Yeah, I can do that," Tom replied, then turned his attention to the kids, his expression softening. "What happened?" "Car hit him, and he's really hurt," one of the boys piped up, his voice shaking. The air felt heavier as the gravity of the situation settled over them, drawing the group into a shared concern. "I'll grab the dog," Eddie said, determination in his voice. He gently scooped the small animal into his arms, cradling it carefully like a fragile treasure. As they moved toward the truck, Sarah felt Tom's eyes on her. For a moment, their gazes locked, and she could see a flicker of something in his expression and understanding, perhaps an acknowledgement of their past. "Let us go," he said simply. The kids piled into the back of the truck while Sarah climbed into the passenger seat. She glanced back at Eddie, worry etched on his face as he carefully held the hurt animal. The truck rumbled to life, and they sped off, headlights illuminating the empty roads. Silence enveloped them, broken only by the soft whimper of the dog. Sarah pressed a hand to her heart, willing it to calm down as she thought about what Tom might think of her now. Would he see her as just another stubborn voice? Or could they finally bridge the gap that had grown between them? At the vet's office, the bright lights felt jarring after the enveloping darkness of the park. They rushed inside, Eddie still clutching the dog like a lifeline. "Please, we need help." The receptionist looked startled but jumped into action. Bestial wails and the scent of antiseptic filled the air as they were directed into an examination room. Sarah felt her pulse quicken again. The world outside faded away. Right now, it was all about the small creature that lay in Eddie's arms, fighting for its life. Tom lingered just outside the room, hands shoved deep in his pockets, his expression unreadable. Sarah could see him looking through the glass, uncertainty etched in his features. "Sarah, is he going to be okay?" Eddie asked, his eyes wide with worry as they awaited the vet. She didn't have an answer, and suddenly, the weight of responsibility felt heavier than before. "I hope so," she whispered, but doubt prickled at her. In this moment, She realized that a shared sense of purpose might unite them all. But as she glanced at Tom, a thought struck her. Did they really understand the power of togetherness? The door swung open, and the vet stepped in, clipboard in hand. "We'll do our best. But we need to act quickly," he said with a grim expression. Sarah took a deep breath. "What do we need to do?" And in that instant, she felt the strains of a deeper connection, as the lines separating them began to blur. Could this shared experience turn a community of shadows back into a community of light? Outside, the night was still thick with tension. But perhaps the bond forged here could heal more than just a small dog. What if this was just the beginning? What other surprises would the night hold? The vet quickly set to work, and Sarah felt a strange mix of hope and fear welling up inside her. The room was small and sterile, the bright overhead lights casting sharp shadows. As the vet examined the dog, she caught glimpses of Eddie's anxious face. He knelt beside the table, his eyes never leaving the little creature. "Is he okay?" Eddie's voice trembled, breaking through the focused silence of the examination. The vet glanced at him, then back at the dog. "He's stable for now, but we need to do some tests. It's too early to say anything for sure." Those words hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. Sarah felt a lump in her throat. "What are you looking for?" she asked, desperate to understand. The vet paused. "We'll need to check for internal injuries and assess any fractures. A hit like this can cause more damage than what's visible on the surface." Eddie, still knelt at the table, clenched his fists tightly. Sarah could see his heart laid bare. He cared so deeply. It reminded her of the bonds the community once shared before everything unraveled. She turned toward Tom, still hovering near the door, a shadow in the bright room. His eyes were fixed on the operation, yet something unspoken flowed between them. The tension hung between them, but there was also an understanding. Could they move past the bitterness of the community split? Just as the vet started his examination, the waiting area door swung open. A group of local kids, faces familiar from school, flooded in. They were looking for updates on the dog, and Sarah's heart sank. Their hope was palpable, and she felt the weight of their expectations. "Is Pippin okay?" one of the girls shouted, clearly distressed. Eddie looked at Sarah, their eyes meeting in silent agreement. This wasn't just about them anymore. It was about everyone who cared for this dog. "Please, you guys, we need to let the vet do his job," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. The kids gave her a mix of nods and uncertain glances. "Let us just wait together," Tom suggested, stepping forward to join the circle, his presence offering quiet reassurance. As they all settled into an uneasy silence, Sarah felt a fire stirring inside her. "We've all been through so much lately, right? This dog, Pippin, he's important to all of us. It's hard to be here, but we have to stick together tonight." The kids nodded slowly, but she could feel the weight of doubt among them. She could feel it in Eddie too, within her. Was it enough? The vet emerged, his expression serious yet not grim. "He's stable, but we need to keep him overnight for observation. If all goes well, we can bring him home tomorrow." A wave of relief coursed through the room, punctuated only by the quiet sighs escaped by the kids. "Can I see him?" Eddie asked, leaning in. Only for a moment, the vet replied. "It's important to limit stress." As Eddie ambled towards the back room, Sarah turned to Tom. "Thank you for being here, for stepping up." Tom shrugged, but the corners of his mouth lifted slightly. "I guess sometimes events force us to reevaluate what really matters." Their eyes locked again, a silent recognition flaring between past hurts and future possibilities. Sarah could hardly breathe, feeling the moment shift. Perhaps this was the path forward, the beginning of mending, not just for Pippin but for the community splintered by conflict. Outside, the night still held its secrets, but the air felt different now. There was an energy brewing, a collective understanding that they might need each other more than they realized. But as the kids began to share stories about Pippin, laughter sparking in the air, an unsettling thought made her pause. If they could come together over a shared love for a dog, what else could bind them? In that moment, Sarah realized she needed to face her own past if she ever hoped to heal the divide among them all. Could they really bridge the gap? And what challenges still lay ahead to truly unite their community? The answer lingered in the night, just beyond reach. Eddie returned from the back room, his face a mixture of relief and lingering worry. "He is so small, but he seemed to recognize me," he said, his voice high-pitched from emotions. I could see it in his eyes. Sarah smiled, a warmth flooding her heart. It felt precious to witness this side of Eddie. The children were gravitating towards him now, their faces alive with hope, drawn to his enthusiasm. "He knows you're here," Sarah said softly. She wondered if they were starting to find strength in each other again through Pippin, through this shared experience. Tom cleared his throat, drawing the group's attention. "Anyone have any funny stories about Pippin?" he asked, and laughter bubbled up, breaking the tension. "I remember when he stole my sandwich last summer," shouted a boy named Jake, everyone chuckling at the memory. "Oh yeah, and I caught him chasing squirrels in the park," replied another girl, wide-eyed as she animatedly reenacted the scene. Sarah listened, glancing around at the faces, brightened by recollections. Something shifted within her. This wasn't just about Pippin. It was about their connection, their shared history. The moment felt like a bridge, an invitation to lean into something greater. Yet, as laughter rang through the air, a shadow flitted through Sarah's mind. She thought back to the arguments and misunderstandings, the scars that had pushed them apart. How had they reached this point of division? She felt a knot of sadness creeping back in, but before she could dwell on it, Eddie spoke up again. "Guys, we can't just let ourselves fall apart again. We've been through so much, we have to look out for each other." There was a fervor in his voice, earnest and raw. "Yeah," chimed in another kid. "We're better together. Just like Pippin." "Yes, we can make sure Pippin gets better, and so do we," Tom added, nodding in agreement. Sarah's heart swelled. Even amidst the cries of the kids, those words resonated deeply. Behind their smiles was a genuine yearning for unity. "Maybe we can start a community project, a way to help each other out," Sarah suggested, emboldened. "Planting a community garden? Helping at the shelter? Yes, we could hold bake sales." One girl piped in, her eyes shining. "Or a car wash fundraiser," another shouted, excitement filling the air like a spark. As the ideas flew around, Sarah found herself getting lost in the moment. The faces of children radiated trust and excitement, the heaviness of doubt and discord fading with each shared thought. But deep down, a worry gnawed at her. The community was still fractured. People had been hurt, and many still carried burdens that couldn't just be washed away with laughter or plans. "I love this, but we also need to talk about the things that divide us," she said tentatively. "We have to confront the fights and anger that held us back. Unless we address our feelings, anything we start could just fall apart again." Eddie nodded, the glow in his demeanor dimming slightly. "You're right, but who knows if everyone will even want to talk." Something inside Sarah stirred. Yes, it wouldn't be easy, but wasn't it the right thing to do? If they could share joy together, couldn't they also face their pain? Just then, the vet walked back into the waiting area, a hesitant smile on his face. "I hate to interrupt, but I have more good news. Pippin is responding well, and I think he'll be okay." Several kids squealed in delight, jumping up and down. Eddie's eyes shone with relief, but as cheers erupted, Sarah felt a weight settle on her shoulders. What if this newfound hope wasn't enough? What if healing a beloved dog wouldn't mend their shattered bonds? As the joy washed over the room, a lingering question remained: could their hearts really find a way back to each other? Or was it just wishful thinking? The laughter echoed, but the future hung uncertain. The tired moon hung over the town like a watchful guardian, as the crowd outside the vet's office celebrated Pippin's recovery. Laughter rang out like sweet music, a sound Sarah had longed to hear for too many years. Yet beneath the glow of joy, a whisper of unease tugged at her heart. Would the connection of the moment dissolve as easily as it had been forged? "Hey Sarah, come over." Jake waved her over, his excitement infectious. As she joined him, she was greeted by the wide-eyed faces of the children, eager for news. Eddie was there too, a bounce in his step as bright as the stars above. Everyone was filled with hope, together in the light of shared purpose. She could sense the spark igniting in their hearts. "Pippin is on the mend," she called, feeling the tension in her own chest ease just a little. "And you all helped make that happen." Together, the cheers roared back, triumphant and uniting. As they gathered around Eddie, who was now the center of attention, she noticed Tom, standing a little off to the side. His earlier demeanor had shifted. The lines of worry on his brow seemed to soften. Sarah caught his gaze, and for the first time, a hint of a smile tugged at his lips. In that moment, she knew they had crossed a major threshold. Something had shifted. There was potential for healing beyond just Pippin. "Let's meet again," she suggested, her heart racing. "Not just for Pippin. Let us maintain this spirit of community. Let us share ideas. Let us open our hearts." It was a gamble, but if people could momentarily come together over a small pup, what else could they achieve? "Sure," shouted a girl who had been one of the first to leap up excitedly. "We can plan another potluck or a game day. Everyone can come." "Yes," Eddie jumped in. "And we can include sharing stories about our community, about each other, the good and the bad." His eyes shone as he looked at her, enthusiasm bubbling over. A chorus of agreement washed over them, sweeping through the group, bridging walls that had felt insurmountable for so long. Tension softened, laughter filled the room again, and Sarah felt herself smiling widely. For the first time in a while, doubt stood at bay. But as they made plans, Sarah paused. "We need to be ready for the tough conversations. We need to face the pain that caused the divides." Murmurs rippled through the group. Some faces were uncertain, but the children's were filled with determination. It was all or nothing now. An urge to confront their shadows pushed her forward. "Let us make it a priority to talk, to share what hurt, what healed us. We can do it together." Tom stepped forward, a flicker of conviction in his eyes. "Look, I won T-lie. I've held on to resentment. I thought I could walk away from it. But I see now it doesn't help. I want to be part of this change." Surprise swept through the crowd, but then cheers broke out again. "All together, right?" Jake called out, and the energy shifted the air thick with promise. Each soul present felt the weight of possibilities stretching before them. Trust wasn't rebuilt overnight, but they could take a step forward together as their plans took shape. Time seemed to dissolve into a shared rhythm of hope and laughter. Gradually, the community found itself enfolded in connections that had once seemed fragile. Days turned into weeks. The gatherings became a vivid tapestry woven from storytelling, shared meals, and laughter echoing against the night sky. Through awkward silences and painful reminders, they began to face the truths that had long festered beneath the surface. They listened to their histories. The scars shared became waypoints on the path toward healing. Jake and Sarah grew closer, their friendship blossoming amidst the moments of vulnerability. He began taking on a leadership role in shaping ideas, bringing people together who had been divided. Eddie became a guiding light in the community, often sharing stories of the bonds within the town that had offered support in times of need. Former grudges faded as hearts united under common goals. As the weeks turned seasons, Sarah often glanced back at the attic where the diary had ignited this journey. The pages that had once felt like a distant past now lived vibrantly among them as they remembered their shared resilience in the face of adversity. Standing under the same stars that had witnessed their first moments of connection, Sarah could picture a future filled with kindness, filled with understanding. And as she looked around, she realized this newfound unity was stronger than anything they had faced before. They had woven a new fabric, rich with colors of their shared hopes, dreams, and stories. The town breathed life anew, and it wasn't just about Pippin anymore. It was about them, all of them, together, a family no longer defined by their past, but by their present resolve to move forward. This was just the beginning, and just like that, a profound truth settled around them, shimmering underneath the night sky. Healing wasn't merely an individual journey. It was a collective transformation that radiated hope and possibility. Sarah smiled, ready to embrace whatever would come next, hand in hand with her community, brimming with gratitude for every moment that had led them here. Now, as they moved forward into the unknown, a glimmering thought brushed against her heart. Tomorrow would be brighter. It had to be, and just as the sky began to lighten, her voice rang out through the gathering, echoing a profound message she never wanted them to forget. Together, we rise. You need to subscribe now to not miss our next exclusive transformation stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these beautiful connections growing. Comment below about your favorite moment from today's story and your hopes for our future gatherings. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who could use a little inspiration. Every action counts, and only true fans truly understand the importance of this community.